Hey everybody, it's Alex here, and on today's episode of the YaBonks Show, I have a very special guest with me today. I have Nikki from the project Better Bank, which is shaking up how we do banking on the blockchain. And it mixes high yield lending with unique tokenomics and a mission to make finance fair for everyone. So, Nikki, do you want to say hi to the audience and tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, Alex. Thank you so much for having me here on the Bong Show. It's great to be here. Um, so a little bit about myself. I've been in DeFi for quite a bit. I had multiple projects. Some hit off, some didn't, and worked with many guys in the space. And I got a great idea for a new project about 3 years ago, I think, and I've since then kept it in the back of my mind, and now it's here. And I really want this to take off, man, because I think it's going to do great.
Awesome. Well, great to hear. And for those who don't know, Nikki and I have known each other for many years out here in the DeFi world, and I know many members of the team as well. So it's great to see you again, my friend, and I'm glad to have you here to talk about Better Bank. It looks very interesting. So people
Yeah,
are
really cool,
probably
man.
wondering, yeah, people are probably wondering at this point, well, what is Better Bank? So could you give us a high level overview or an elevator pitch for Better Bank?
Gonna do my best. So Better Bank is basically two protocols that work symbiotically together. One empowers the other, and the other empowers the one. One of them is basically a savings account where people can deposit money that gets lended out, and they get a very high interest for it. The other one generates the collateral for people to borrow that money, and actually that part of the protocol makes a lot of money through the protocol growth itself. That is what Better Bank is in a very short way.
Very cool. I have so many questions too, especially about how you guys achieve such high interest rates for those who are
Mhm.
interested in lending out
Safely.
their capital. Yeah. So, um, before we dive into that though, do you have
Mhm.
any news or dates or special announcements that you want to make before we really get down into the weeds?
Yeah, absolutely. We are right now already in our whitelist presale, which is going to run until the 1st of June. And doing this whitelist presale every 2 weeks, the bonus that people get for buying in already gets a little bit less because you're so early. At the same time, though, we are rolling out everything as we go right now. The code is pretty ready, but it needs to be hooked up to the UI. And the UI, as you see here in the background already, is still a mock-up, stuff like that. And then from June 1st to 12th, we have our public pre-sale where our share token becomes well, incrementally more expensive every 2 days. And then we launch at the 1st of July.
Okay, so right now you have a white listed pre-sale that's going
Yeah,
until June and
yeah. And whitelisting is pretty easy. Like we just want people to either, do some shares or some retweets or stuff like that, or look at our at what we have and provide us proper feedback because we really want to have our UX, our user experience, to be really good. And so we really want feedback. And as soon as you give us feedback, we give you whitelist. So that's how it goes.
cool. And what kind of bonuses can people who are part of the whitelist or pre-sale expect? I know you said it's higher the earlier you get in. So like
Yeah.
what kind of bonuses could people expect?
So we during the whitelist pre-sale, we sell our share token at $10 that per token. That's going to be the cheapest it's ever going to be because this token is not on the market. It's actually a token that can be minted or burned. So we set the price, and the price is going to only increase from that point onward. During the whitelist pre-sale, it's currently at when you buy, you get an extra 15% printed as soon as the token generation event is. In a couple of days, at the 15th, that's the last day that happens, and then from the 16th onwards, it's an extra 10%. Then 2 weeks later it becomes 5, and 2 weeks later it's just $10. And then during the public pre-sale, it goes from 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then we launch at $16, and from that time onward, it's just going to be a quarter a day. So 16.25, 16.50, and so on and so forth. Probably for the rest of the time. So
Amazing.
it's really going to be the cheapest it's ever going to be at this point.
Okay, so if you guys are interested in the pre-sale, you get the share token at a heavily discounted price compared to
Oh
the
yeah.
launch price for the public launch coming up. So that is very interesting. All the links are in the description of the video. Check out their Discord
Mhm.
server. They're also on Telegram and on Twitter/X. All right. Now that that's out of the way, all right, Nikki, how do I make money in this thing? Tell me, how do we make money here?
Well, there's two ways, and as because it's a symbiotic two-prong protocol. So I'm going to start with the easiest one, and that is what we call the stronghold. Um, I don't know if you've got my screen here.
Let me pull it
Um,
up. There we go.
yeah, so this is our landing page. By the
Okay.
way, people, you should all know that what I'm showing you is still a mock-up. That and when I'm going to show you any kind of numbers, that's simply what the designer put in. So, for example, the designer had thought that we right now have a total value on the platform of this, which obviously we don't have yet, but we will. We will. Um, so that's good to know. But I'm going to use that mock-up to explain everything.
Okay.
Um, so the stronghold. Let's go to the other one. This is the actual decentralized app page. The previous one was the landing page.
Okay.
And here the yield APY, for example, this needs to be more like 50 or 70%. But on the other hand, 1.2 billion, nah, not there yet. So let's go. Anyway, we go to the stronghold. Here at the stronghold, it is very simple. People simply go here with their assets to deposit, and we're going to launch on the Arbitrum chain with just 2 tokens. And the reason we just do just 2 tokens is because we want the liquidity to be thick enough for everyone to be safe, basically. If we work with very thin liquidity, can't really do that. But as soon as we launch, we're going to list many assets. We want to do stuff like PAXG and Red BTC and so much more, USDC, maybe even Euro stables. Anyway, when people go here, they can just deposit at the moment their USDT or ETH, like here, deposit. No, the other one can't click yet, but I can click the ETH, set your amount, and you deposit it. That's as easy as it goes. And then you start gathering interest, which will be something like 50% to 70%, and it could be as high as 360%. But actually, we don't really want that, but we'll get into that later.
Okay.
This 70% rate is kind of where we want to be at.
Mm.
So that is the easiest way to make money. Just use this, put your money there, and have it grow.
Wow.
Now, I would say that you would want to know how this is possible because just putting money there and have it grow is a bit weird,
Yeah, so
and
you're
that is where
saying
the
I could
other
potentially just deposit
yeah
USDT. I could
yeah
lend it out. This is just like a lending and borrowing platform, and I can lend out
yeah
USDT or ETH. But man,
uh-huh
lending out stables and earning 50 to 70% APY,
uh-huh
potentially higher in some situations, is
hmm
mind-boggling to me. So yeah,
yeah, and
so,
safely too. Like it's not as if you've got to loop something and then have to be afraid to be liquidated or whatever. It's just you deposit there, and you're definitely going to get it back. Like as soon as you withdraw, you're going to get it back. So it's it's like I'm very happy with this. This is the savings account that banks should have, but don't.
incredible. So how? I guess we'll jump into how this is possible here shortly. You said there's
Uh-huh.
another way we can make money here, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is sort of the way that it works, which is the other way. It's powered by um, printed credit, and this is a senior system. So, as far as I know, I don't know how many people know senior systems like the old Tomb Finance, for example.
Isn't that also
Those
like
were
seniorage? Isn't that how the like United States monetary system or currency system works? Some in
well,
a
in a
way.
way, in a way. So actually this is a funny tidbit. Like the old word for seigniorage is it's French. It's seigneurage, and it meant that the lord, which was the seigneur, um, they had the power to mint the money in their realm
Mm,
in these medieval feudal times. And what they often did was that they would take, for example, like a gold coin or whatever, and they would mint their coin and then make it slightly lighter than
right.
what it actually stood for. And then whatever they had left, that's what they called their seigniorage.
Mm,
But that aside, in crypto, it means something else.
yeah.
Um, so what it does is we have these share tokens that you can actually get in the pre-sale already. You can also buy them. I'm sorry. You can also buy them later. And when you have them, you can stake them here. You can either stake them in our ETH favor pool, we call that ETH, or USDT favor pool,
Mhm.
because we borrow against favor. So what you do here is you stake your Esteem here. You can also withdraw it, of course. Not yet in the mockup, but you can withdraw it. Um, and then you eventually get a certain amount of ETH or a certain amount of USDT favor. So you claim that, you claim your 334 USDT favor, and then you get to go. By the way, USDT favor is not necessarily stable with USDT.
Okay.
That is good to know. So it could be 2 USDT or it could be half a USDT. Um, that does matter for the protocol, but maybe we'll get into that later.
Sure.
Um,
But so favor is
when
basically like your credit
credit
score,
token,
like a credit token. Yeah, okay.
it's a credit token. It's a credit
Interesting.
token. So then you go back to the actual wildlands here. And there we see a very familiar thing that we also saw with the stronghold. And actually, all of this is based on the AAVE code. So it's AAVE 3. So if you know AAVE, you might recognize some of this.
And AAVE is the
And
largest borrowing and lending DeFi platform that I know of. Is that correct?
yeah, they're pretty good and pretty big as well. And
Yeah.
and and that's why we chose their code, because the AAVE 3 code is actually public. So we could just take it and use it because they're advancing in ways that we don't need, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But we took it and we are building our own repo, but we use their code as a basis because their code has been tried and true. Like the
Yes.
billions of dollars have been on their platform for years and years. So that's why we trust their code to do that well, and then we utilize that in our own protocol.
I love
Um,
AAVE. I use it myself for borrowing and lending right now, just because it's
yeah,
been battle tested over the
absolutely.
years. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that was a good choice on your part to fork that code.
Yeah. So this system, Better Bank, is pretty innovative. I would say it's a new system that has not been fielded anywhere yet, but the code that we use is actually a reuse of older code we already know is good.
Yeah,
So we're really focusing on safety there.
cool.
Now, my designer here has thought that USDT looks like USDC. Ignore that. Like, well, we're just going with it.
Yeah.
Um, so here, what you do here is post your collateral, and here you see that it is ETH, ETH. These are actually LPs. So USDT, USDTF.
Okay.
What happens when you deposit here is that you deposit it in, and it says here flash in ETH, or of course flash in USDT. Oh no, that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Flash in ETH.
Yeah.
So what happens then is that when you flash it in, the system already does a flash loan for you for 50% of the value of the favor that you hold, and then creates the LP within the same transaction, and then posts that LP as collateral. So, for example, if you have that $200 in value of a USDT favor, you then go here, the system flash loans for you 200 USDT, creates the LP, which is then worth 400 USDT, and deposits that, and then makes the loan right. So what you then get is you've deposited 400, a value of 400 USDT, and you've already loaned 50% of that. So you've already loaned 200 USDT. We did it this way because that means that nothing has to be sold or whatever. People can just go with their favor to the system and get it on there, and it works immediately.
Mm.
People are also always free to create their own LPs if they want. It's on a different site, but they can do that. So you deposit that, and then you have your 50% loan. We actually, you can borrow up to 80%. So the interesting part here is that you can then, with that favor, which is, if you will remember, 200 USDT worth, if you then bring up that loan up to 80%, then you basically get 60% of that 200. Like 2 times 30, 50 to 80 is 30%. That 2 times, because we're only looking at the value of the favor. And then you get 60% of 200 is, what's that out of my, that's 120?
I think so.
Yeah, it should be 120. So you can then borrow 120 USDT and then keep the position as it is. And basically, you kind of never really have to pay it back. You just take it out and you just leave it as it is. You pay a pretty hefty interest rate, but who cares what kind of interest rate you pay if you got the tokens for free? That doesn't really matter. So even if you get liquidated, you get liquidated with tokens that you absolutely got for free. And you get these tokens printed based on your share token, your esteem. And your esteem never gets liquidated. So you're not at a loss when you get liquidated. So there's no real reason to pay back any of those loans.
Hmm.
Which means you can just take out whatever you can take out, and that's why we call it the wild lands, because it's basically you're running into the wild and you're trying to find all kinds of loot, and whatever you can take home, you can take home. So that is the basis of how it works. So these wild lenders are paying the huge interest rates that the people on the stronghold side are receiving. And then, of course, we have very many safety structures implemented that make sure that all of this doesn't really go to hell, say. And that's kind of the way it works in a nutshell.
Interesting. That kind of sounds like, in a way, similar to what banks do in traditional finance with
Yes,
fractional
it's
reserve
actually,
lending.
yes, it is, because it's actually tokenized fractional reserve lending, because
Mm.
the favor token are filling up what with a regular bank is just a void. Because, for example, I'm from the Netherlands. We've got a big bank here, big banks here, and and they have fractional reserve lending. I'm not going to name their names, by the way, but maybe that's smarter. So, for example, if one of these big banks has 10% fractional reserve lending, what that means is that if 10% of the assets that are deposited with that bank get withdrawn, then the bank is basically bankrupt. It can't really do anything more because it doesn't have any more of the assets. So that 90% that they don't have actually gets managed very well, I might add, because they're still in existence, by, as we call it, good bank management. And it's really nothing more except for the fact that they are careful with what they are lending out, and therefore it still works and people trust it, even though there's only 10% fractional reserve. Now, of course, this bank management is pretty expensive because those are skilled people there. And of course, the people at the top, they really like their bonuses. So that takes a whole lot of money. But if they do fail, which happens, then it's usually the people of the country that they're in that's paying the price. It's usually the taxpayers buying the banks out. So that's pretty unfair on two ends, I would say. I mean, these bank managers and these top guys or women make a whole lot of money. And if things go wrong, then it's the public that pays. So what we have done, or what Better Bank does, is first of all, since there is a token that has actual value, trading value, that props up the void in normal banking, there is no void. I mean, liquidations can actually happen, and the token has its actual value, so it doesn't go wrong. And also, if there is a bank run, we have defense mechanisms against that to basically restart the system without anyone actually losing their money. So we just improve upon what the banks do.
Interesting. You answered a lot of the questions I had about that.
I'm
Comparing
sorry,
traditional.
man.
No, that's
But
great. It's like you read my mind on some of this stuff. Um, you know,
I'm just happily talking. But if you have deeper questions, go right ahead, because
yeah,
I like explaining it.
I do. So okay, you mentioned bank runs. So you said your
Uh-huh.
defense against bank runs relies on liquidating credit heavy positions to free up assets. Can you walk us
Yes.
through a hypothetical bank run? What triggers liquidations and how quickly could depositors access funds in that situation?
Well, it could, but there's actually a lot of background information that you need to know for that. But I'll try my best.
Okay.
So what we see here is you see here received interest against MPB utilization. Um, it should actually be MBP. MBP
Because that's
utilization,
maximum
which is,
borrow potential, right? Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maximum. You've read the white paper, sir.
Oh, I did.
Maximum borrowing potential.
Yeah.
Um, so what we have said here is that we want people to borrow, of course, as much as they can. But even though so many people borrow on the wildland side and take home whatever assets they can, we still want people able to be, still want people on the stronghold side to be able to withdraw, because, you, like, it's not nice if, yeah, you can get all kinds of interest, but you can never withdraw your money. So, and there we use the same fractional reserve principle, which means that we want to have at least 20% of the assets at hand that people can actually withdraw. So um, let's say if there are only 20 other people, no, even five. If there are five other people with as much money as you can always withdraw. So there's that's a defense mechanism. When it goes up to this 100% maximum borrow potential, that means that 80% of the assets are loaned out. Then we are at this interest rate of 72, actually. If that goes up to the last 20%, so that would be from 100% going to 125%, um, because plus 25% is the same as minus 20%. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so this last 25% over the maximum borrow potential, then we shoot up from a 75% here to a 360% interest rate received. And that is actually on the paying side, that's a 400% interest rate paid. Um, that is an insane interest rate that is absolutely not sustainable,
Yeah.
and that is by design. Because if that interest rate shoots up like that, first of all, it will be highly interesting to actually put in more money because you get an interest rate that is like 200% a year or whatever. So that might be very attractive. So that is a way that we get more liquidity. Um, but secondly, because these interest rates are so high, people on the wildland side will get liquidated, and then that frees up assets as well. And we have more defense using our own treasury actually for that. Um, and uh, uh, and actually, I should go there now
So I
with the treasury.
yeah, I know you mentioned, as long as you guys have 20% in reserve, in the
Yeah, yeah.
stronghold, then, there aren't really any issues.
No, then people can still borrow.
I
Like on the wildland side, people can still borrow if
Yeah.
then they can still borrow. But as soon as we reach this maximum borrow potential of 80%, then nobody can borrow here anymore. And that also makes it uninteresting to keep your favor. So people would then um, actually start selling their favor. And here's something that we haven't really discussed yet. Borrowing against favor is a better deal than selling it because there is a sell tax of 50%.
Mm,
And borrowing, as I earlier explained, yields you 60%. So this earlier idea of utilizing that 200 value USDT of favor, which yielded, as we were talking, 120 USDT. If you would sell it, it would yield you 100. So it's better to borrow. But if you can't borrow anymore, you're gonna sell it, and this is where the treasury comes into play, because liquidations will make the protocol money because the protocol will sell those assets untaxed, and also the sell tax will make the protocol money. But this money that the protocol makes gets actually deposited for a large part, 80% of it, um, on the stronghold side
okay.
to get more liquidity in the system again. So as soon as you start seeing people selling their favor or getting liquidated, that automatically means that more money comes in on the stronghold side again, and therefore that interest rate will go down again and assets will be available for withdrawal again. So the system will recover itself over such a period.
And I think I read that you have a 10% liquidation platform bonus or fee. You charge on liquidations, which 10% is pretty much industry standard from all the different borrowing and lending
Yeah.
platforms I've seen. So that 10% also goes to the treasury, and then 80% of
Uh-huh.
that goes into the stronghold. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So 80% gets posted in the stronghold and on the stronghold side. Yeah, from
Okay.
by the treasury, and that's immediately. Like as the transaction of liquidation happens, it gets posted immediately, or at least that's what I tasked my was what I tasked the developer to do, and he's on that. And he said he was going to make it happen, so it's good. And um, also, when there's a sell tax, that tax also gets, the profits made by that get posted immediately as well. And there's a third way, by the way, that our treasury grows, and that is actually when people mint the Esteem, so our share token, because 100% of that value um, is profit for the protocol. So once again, because any revenue, I should say, not profit, but any revenue for the protocol, 80% of that gets immediately posted in the stronghold and by the treasury. And that is an extra protection mechanism because, as you might recall, 20% is the fractional reserve value, but the last one to withdraw is always the treasury. The treasury is not going to withdraw. The treasury is simply there. And we might in the future take something out of the treasury for big investments or something, but other than that, it's just going to be there as a safety margin.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
I hope so.
well, I was wondering about the treasury putting, you know, funds into the stronghold to bolster the reserve to
Yeah.
allow for liquidity for retail depositors to withdraw their funds even in
Yes.
a panic or bank run situation. I know you
Yeah.
mentioned in the white paper once utilization reaches 100%, assets in the stronghold, I believe, get frozen. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So in like a worst case,
That's true. It's a hypothetical situation that
hypothetical,
we don't really.
and,
Yeah.
and that those are the things on people's minds before they decide to enter
Yeah.
into a new like savings
Yeah.
account or banking system. Is, what's the likelihood of me getting my assets frozen or confiscated or liquidated or something, even as a depositor? Like, it seems like the stronghold's probably the safest route to go in this
Absolutely.
protocol. Now
Yeah.
in this edge case, this extreme situation,
Uh-huh.
if utilization ever hit 100%, what does that mean? And how long could the temporary realistic be? And what's your plan if depositors get frustrated waiting for things to be unfrozen? So can you explain what that would look like?
Okay, so then we're back to this little trumpet here.
Yep.
We would be over here at this 360% receipt. So
Would they be
if your
earning, by the
asset,
way, if they get frozen, would they be earning that max interest rate?
absolutely, yeah,
Wow.
all the time, and
Okay.
because the whole point is to then blow up the system so much that everyone gets into liquidation on the wildland side. So
Interesting.
that is the point, that the interest rate is too high for them to continue borrowing. Um, so what would happen is, first of all, people get that interest rate while they're frozen. So
Yeah.
you get a super high interest rate, and this is like, it's a savings account. We hope that you don't put money in that you need every day. You shouldn't do that. Like, put money in that you're gonna use. I don't know, in half a year or in a year or maybe in 20.
Yeah.
It's a savings account. So if you're gonna use it, make sure that you take it out a month before or something, or a week before. So just be a little careful with that.
Yeah.
But other than that, if that happens, um, then the protocol gets supercharged to this super high interest rate. Well, the protocol will basically just revert itself, and this will already happen through the liquidation. So will already happen through the selling of the favor tokens on the other side, which will of course dump the favor token price. Like, that is all included in the game. And then more liquidity will be available. The treasury will not sell anything. So there is a pretty high likelihood that our actual um, uh, reserve is not 20%, but more like, eventually, if the treasury is big, more like 40 or something, or maybe even more. Um, and I think it should be only very short time that people actually are frozen, if it ever happens. I put it in the white paper because I want to be honest,
Of course.
uh, but also, to be honest, I don't really see it happening, that everyone is going to pull their liquidity out, because it would be a strange thing to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
and
it's
it
it's
will be short
interesting
lived.
to note that, like, in that situation, they would be earning close to 1% per day in interest, in that worst case scenario. So really, if it's like not a emergency on their part, if
Mhm.
sitting there waiting while you're earning 1% per day, it doesn't sound like the worst
Yeah,
thing in
it's
the in
it's
the world.
APY, so yeah, it's APY, so that's calculated using compound interest, so
Okay,
it might be a little bit less
little
than
bit,
1%, but
little bit
it
less.
per year would be 360. Yeah, that's true. It's not
Interesting.
too bad, right? To be waiting for your money while you see it increase in value, and you
Especially
know you're
in US,
eventually gonna get it.
especially in a stable coin like USDT, because I can see like
Yeah.
if people are locked up and they're and ETH is, let's say, doing what it did the past few months and it crashes, 50% over
It's been
four
great,
months.
hasn't it?
Yeah, quite the correction during this bull run. So if
Uh-huh.
that kind of thing happens, I can see people who have, locked up some ETH here potentially. If it's
Yeah,
frozen, I'm not saying it's locked. It's only locked in this extreme situation we're analyzing.
yeah, yeah,
But I could see the ETH people being frustrated and the stablecoin
yeah. I can
people,
imagine.
just kind of sitting there like, I'm earning 1% per day almost on stablecoins. Not so bad. Now, like you
Yeah,
said, that situation probably wouldn't last for long because everybody would probably jump in trying to earn close to 1% per day on stablecoins. So that'd probably increase, it would probably decrease utilization compared to what's in reserves in the stronghold.
yeah.
Um, and that makes sense. So I understand the balancing act now. I'm starting to see it here. So
Good,
you're doing a great
nice.
job explaining it and kind of gaming out these extreme scenarios. Kind of shows how
Uh-huh.
this thing balances itself with supply and
Yeah,
demand of uh, collateral, liquidity, and interest rates, funding rates. Um,
yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, so you answered like you covered so much that I was going to ask you. You really did a great deep dive here. So let me kind of skip ahead to some more of the tokenomics. So
Skip. Let's go. I'm sorry. I'm reminded of these New Zealanders that, that they have these wonderful things. I don't know what they're called anymore. It's fun. Anyway, skip. Go.
so
Don't
speaking
skip.
of this
Yeah, go ahead.
this balancing act,
Yeah,
so you've designed a cooperative investment system where
yeah,
Stronghold and Wildlands users strengthen each other. So, could you
yeah. That's true.
quantify this? Like, how much does a $1,000 deposit in the Stronghold boost a Wildlands borrower's position?
Oh, that's a nice question because like on the stronghold position, it's easy. You just get your percentage on your $1,000, right?
Yeah.
But on the wildland side, something else happens because as soon as you do that, basically $800 become available to borrow, which you can borrow and then keep. So what that means is that if the protocol grows, say from 2 million to 5 million, then people on the stronghold side, they will simply get their interest rate, which is a great interest rate. But people on the wildland side will be able to capture like 80% of that 3 million increase. So it's very hard to say how much it's going to be, but I think it's going to be a lot. On the other hand, if we're not growing, if it's going to stay at this 2 million hypothetically, or if it's going to decrease, apologies, or if it's going to decrease, um, then the wildlanders don't really make any money. They just, maybe they can sell their favor for some, but that is diminishing returns because that actually dumps the price of favor. Um, so that is not a good time for to be a wildlander if the protocol goes down, but it is still a good time to be a strongholder, and that is the idea, right? The wildlanders make really huge gains when the protocol actually goes up in TVL in total value locked, uh, and the strongholders just make gains all the time.
Interesting. Okay. So, I guess.
And of course, by the way,
Mhm.
you can also get your whatever you capture on the wildlands and then send it to a different wallet and put it in a stronghold. Because why not? And then you can try to capture it again.
So that's interesting. So I remember in the white paper, it mentioned that
Uh-huh.
mixing stronghold and wildlands positions could potentially
Hmm.
risk heavy losses if you do it in the same wallet.
Yeah.
Um, why is that? And then beyond just giving warnings about it, are there any technical barriers you could add to prevent users from making that mistake?
Well, the technical barriers that we currently plan on using is simply warning people as soon as our the protocol detects. I have a sneezing cat by my side right now. I'm
Bless
sorry.
you, kitty.
Yeah, bless you, kitty. uh, as soon as the protocol detects that you have a position in the other part of the protocol. So if you have a position in the wildlands part and you are on the strongholds page, you get warnings. And the other way around as well. As soon as you are in the wildlands, but you have a stronghold position in the same wallet, you get warnings. And the reason for this is that as we took the AAVE code, um, currently we are investigating this, so maybe this is all the information by the time you hear this, but um, we can't really uh, put something up as collateral uh, and then not make it borrowable, or at least that seems to be a problem. And what Aave does and its code does underlying means it just adds up everything that you've deposited. So if you have a wildlands position where you are already at 80% loan to value and you're going to get liquidated at 85%, right? So you're pretty close to liquidation already,
Yeah.
which is normally not a problem because you get the tokens for free. But if you have a stronghold position on the same wallet, then everything that you've got in the stronghold, which is normally supposed to be safe, is added to your position by the code. And therefore, if you get liquidated, then your stronghold position gets captured as well.
Mm.
And and that would make you lose 50% of it because a liquidation is always 50%. So that would make you actually lose your stronghold position, which should otherwise never be possible. It's just normally you can't lose a stronghold position, but if you combine it, you can. And therefore, we just don't want that to happen. We do want to look into technically solving this in the future, but that would be like a rewriting of extensive code, and developers are expensive people, I can tell you. So
Yeah.
we would need to be further along in our protocol, and then maybe we can add that. Up until that point, we just have to give our warnings, and we do put a lot of effort into education, and of course the warnings, but also into education. So in the end, it's not so difficult to have two wallets
Oh,
and
I've got like
in
50
your
of them. Yeah,
there you
I
go,
use like a
right?
test. I make a new wallet for every DApp I test out. Just out of
Well, there you
best
go.
practice.
And
Um
that is good practice, by the way. 50 might be a bit much. I've like 10 or 12, I think. But you do you.
yeah, it's quite the
But
list.
yeah, but you should have multiple wallets
Yeah.
because you might click a wrong link and someone might empty your wallet. I've had a wallet of mine emptied at some point because I clicked the wrong link. Luckily, there was only $80 in it, but
Yeah.
it happens. If you're in a hurry, you make mistakes. So um, that you should really be careful. Make multiple wallets, and for our protocol, you need to at least.
And
You
make
can have as many
sure
as you
you're
want.
getting the
Yeah,
links to Better Bank from their official Discord and Telegram servers. Uh,
always.
don't
Yeah.
don't listen to anybody DMing you from my server or my fake impersonator accounts because I've got a million of them. They will be DMing
Uh-huh.
you or responding to your comments on the social media posts, pretending to be me. They are not me. get it from the official Discord server or go to what is
Yeah,
the URL?
we are betterbank.io, and this is our current landing page, by the way, which is a temporary one. It's gonna be gone in a bit, but it's gonna go to this. Um, but this is our current one. So if you see this, you're right. You're in a good place. It's betterbank.io.
Awesome. Now, back to the wallet question. So,
Yeah.
if you are in the wildlands, your LP acts, and LP, for those who don't know, it stands for liquidity position or liquidity
Yeah.
pool, liquidity provisioning, but let's just say liquidity position. Your liquidity
Hmm.
position here acts as collateral. You can
Yes.
borrow against that and then do
Yes.
whatever you want with those tokens you've borrowed. Now, if you
Yeah.
have funds deposited in the stronghold and you've lent out your
Uh-huh.
stronghold assets, does that mean if you're also borrowing in the wildlands, then your system views your stronghold assets as potential collateral for your
Exactly.
loan?
So don't do that.
And then
And
it and then it becomes
we're gonna tell you to
subject
not do that so many times,
and then
but
it
don't
becomes
do that.
subject to liquidation in the event that
Exactly.
your borrowing
And
position becomes insolvent.
this is also why we have certain extra features, I think, here in the stronghold. So we do a little extra in the stronghold where if you deposit in the stronghold, you get a little bit of our share token, which is esteem. You're not going to get 45 esteem. That's the designer again. But we have this claim and send token. So when you claim it, we actually want you to put in the address where to put it, so your 0x whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because we want you to claim it and send it to the address that you're going to use in the wildlands. We even put that here. Enter the address of the wallet that you use for the
Hmm.
wildlands, because we
Interesting.
really don't want you to keep that on the same wallet. Like if you claim it on the same wallet, you can do that here. I mean, we're not going to stop you, but then we would say, hey, smelt it down, and don't use it in any other way. Just get whatever you can get for it, but don't use it.
So interesting. So you earn some esteem rewards from
Yeah, some
your
extra.
deposited
Aside,
positions in the
yeah.
stronghold. How is the interest paid out in the stronghold? What do you actually receive as interest?
you your asset. So if you have USDT, then you receive USDT.
Oh.
If you have Ethereum in the stronghold, then you receive
And it just
Ethereum.
auto compounds on your position itself, like in
Yeah,
AAVE.
yeah. It just like in AAVE, like it auto compounds, and like in the future we want to put in like we're on Arbitrum, so we can't start with PaxG because that's on ETH. But
Mm-hmm.
PaxG, for those who don't know, is a gold stable coin that follows the price of gold, and so we want to add that as well because gold is doing pretty okay. Um, uh, so if you enter gold, then you get interest on your gold and you get it in PaxG. Red BTC, same thing. Like you put in Red BTC and you can get your 50% on your Red BTC in the same way.
So along those lines, Stronghold starts with just ETH and USDC to ensure deep liquidity. What's the
Yeah,
vetting process for
USDT.
adding
Yeah.
new tokens like WBTC or a gold stablecoin like PaxG? And how do you
Uh-huh.
balance safety with user demand?
Well, we just want um, like we think that it's important to have a certain basis of liquidity. So that's also why we do the pre-sale, actually, to have a little basis of liquidity that we put in our treasury, and then we put that on the stronghold side so that the protocol can start working, and so that people can start getting stuff on the wildland side. So that is what we want to do. And so whenever we want to add a new token, what we're gonna do is take some of the protocol revenue, maybe even take it out of the treasury if that's not a problem at that moment. Like if we're not close to freezing or whatever, then we can take some out of the treasury and all that it will do is that everyone's interest will go up. So I think it's not really a problem. And then we will sell some of that for the new token that we're going to implement, and then put that new token in the product in the treasury, and deposit it, be the first depositor basically, so that that can happen as well. And what will then happen, so that that can be borrowed as well, and that can be posted as well, and you can receive interest on that as well. And what will then happen is here in the wildlands with the groves, where now you can get ETH favor and USDT favor, well, then extra places will pop up where you can get your PAX-G favor, or where you can get your Rep BTC favor. And that also means that the share tokens that you have more choices of where to put them. Like if you see like, okay, but everyone and their mother wants USDT favor, so I'm getting not enough per day. Then take it out of there and put it in your gold favor, and see if that pool is smaller. So try and get that. Um, where I think that's also a way that it can grow, and that later investors actually have a pretty good chance still of capturing some pretty good yield, simply because it rebalances every time.
So speaking of later investors, so the white paper claims that Better Bank's seniorage and lending slash borrowing integration reduces pyramid-like dynamics that we're all familiar
Yeah.
with from the days of yore in DeFi, right? So how
Yeah.
exactly does this interplay stabilize token value for later investors?
Um, Well, what happens basically with in the normal situation is that when there is an IDO, or initial an an ICO, initial coin offering, or an like initial offering, basically.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at abbreviations, so apologize. Whenever it is one of those things, the early people can buy it for nothing,
Right.
right? The people who were early in ETH bought it for a couple of cents per ETH, and the people who were early in Bitcoin bought it for a couple of dollars per Bitcoin, or even less. Um, and then what happens that as soon as this token shoots up because everybody wants it, that means that these people who already had the token, um, they have the opportunity to absolutely dump on everyone's heads.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the pyramid style that we see. Like if you're an early investor, you get everything. And if you're a late investor, your exit liquidity.
Yeah.
And because our protocol simply doesn't make you really lose, like it's not a token that goes up and down. I mean, your share token, um, it just continuously increases in value. It doesn't really matter when you get in. So if you go here to the marketplace and you say mint, it at the moment it says $16, and it says here increases the price by 25 cents every day.
Hmm.
This is launch price, by the way, $16. Right now you can still get it for 10 in the whitelist pre-sale, but launch price is $16. And then it increases by 25 cents every day. So after 400 days, it's going to be $116. But that doesn't mean that if someone then buys it for $116, that these older people who bought it for 16 can dump on their heads. Because the way that you get rid of a steam, if you do want that, which I don't recommend, I mean, just get your favor. But if you do want to get rid of a steam, you burn it. And we call that smelting. You get 70% of the value of the current steam price in favor. And you can choose whether you want your USDT favor or your ETH favor. There needs to be a little F on the back of it.
Okay.
So you get USDT favor, you get ETH favor, which at that moment in time gets minted, actually. So there is no real price fluctuation for the share token at all, um, simply because it gets minted when you buy it, and it gets burned when you get rid of it. And therefore, even if you buy it at a higher price, I mean, you'd be better off being early. Still, of course, being early is always good. But if you wait another 400 days, it's going to be 216.
Hmm.
So you're still going to be good.
Interesting. So, um, yeah, so Esteem's elastic supply and increasing mint price, they're unusual, right? It's not something
Hmm.
you hear you don't hear something
Yeah.
like that every day. So,
No.
why not have a fixed supply or market-driven price? And how do you prevent overinflation diluting ownership?
So overinflation diluting ownership. Um,
Because
what
Esteem's the
happens?
share token,
Yeah.
right?
What?
And
What?
that gives you
Yeah.
like ownership and better bank, I guess. And
That's true. That's
so,
true.
yeah.
It does actually eventually, if you never reinvest and you just keep it at your original amount, your ownership will reduce over time because of the inflation. So if you want to keep your ownership percentage any kind of valid, then you should reinvest some of the amounts that you take from the wildlands into new esteem. Or you can buy favor and then you get some free esteem. That's another thing, but um, we'll get to that later, I guess.
Okay.
Um, so if you want to keep up with ownership, then you need to occasionally buy some more share tokens. That is not stopped in any way. But if you do buy esteem, then once again, 80% of that gets posted as deposits by the treasury. So whenever people do buy extra esteem because they want their favor and they want to take from whatever gets deposited on the stronghold side, they actually already are adding to the stronghold side by that very action. So it does dilute ownership, but it might not even dilute gains that much, or maybe not even at all. That's hard to say with the WAF
Interesting. Okay, so a steam can be burned for 70% of its value in favor, like you said.
in favor. Yeah.
Why not
So that means if
allow why not allow direct market sales, and how does this burning mechanism impact the protocol's overall economy?
well, it does a lot. We don't allow direct market sales simply because that would mean that people can dump on later investors' head, and we
Hmm.
don't want that. Secondly, if we would need to keep an LP going, then we need to incentivize it, or otherwise the LP would get shallower and shallower, and therefore the esteem price would get very volatile. And this is actually a problem that we've seen many times with the older seniors protocols. The share token was always hyper volatile,
Yeah.
and that eventually resulted in a death spiral. It killed the protocol time and again.
Yeah.
Every time these share tokens going to zero then killed the protocol because nobody cared anymore.
Right.
Um, and that was to maintain the pack, by the way, back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so that's why we devised a different system. Now you can say like, why not just smelt it for example, USDT or ETH and not the favor type? Well, because we don't really see this as a normal option that everyone should do. First of all, and second of all, if we would smelt it for USDT, we would have to take it out of the treasury. So we would be hurting the community doing that. Because any tokens in the treasury are capturable by the wildlands. So that is another reason why we did favor. And like it's only actually meant as an opt out. Like if you really want to be done with the protocol, then go and smelt it. Go ahead and get rid of it. Uh, but you'll be at a loss. First of all, because you can't get any more favor anymore because you've given away your share token. But yeah, you'll be also be at a loss because you only get 70%. However, and this is good to realize, if you've waited long enough, then your loss is not that bad. I mean, already here it says the smelting price corresponding to that $16 you saw earlier is 11.25. So even with just 70%, it's already more that you can get for it at launch than what you can buy it for right now.
Interesting.
However, you get it in favor. So if you don't want to borrow against your favor and you want to sell your favor, there's always like that 50% tax. So you got to take that into account. So you need to wait even longer for your esteem to go beyond that whole threshold. But if you buy it now, for example, for $10 an esteem, and the esteem becomes, say, $50 worth, which is not super far away, um, and you get only 35% eventually of that value, because first you got to smelt it against 70%, and then you get half of that again. Um, then you're still in profit because you've waited long enough. Because that's then $17.50 per Steam, which is still more than what you bought it for now. So if people wait long enough with selling their Steam, they can still be in profit no matter the tax.
And why would they
Uh,
sell their favor when they could borrow against it and say get 60% back instantly versus sell it for with
yeah,
a
it's a
50%
very good
tax?
question. Normally, I would say you shouldn't borrow. You shouldn't sell your favor. I think the only moment that people are actually going to sell favor is if they cannot borrow against it.
Okay.
That's the only moment, because and that's only going to happen if we are at maximum borrow potential,
Ah.
and that is actually going to happen regularly. I think being at maximum borrow
It
potential.
happens all the time on
Uh,
AAVE. Like BNB recently on Binance
yeah,
Smart Chain, it hit
yeah,
their maximum utilization, and like I just couldn't
yeah.
deposit anymore for a while. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and, like as I said, this what in the stronghold being completely frozen with this 125% maximum borrow potential, that's going to be super rare.
Oh, okay.
But being at that maximum 100 maximum borrow potential, actually being at that 70% in 72% interest, I think that's going to be pretty regular, and
Yeah.
that is going to um, it's going to determine the price of favor. Because if it's interesting to buy favor, even then the price goes up, and if it's not interesting, if you can't borrow, then you're going to sell it. So that makes the price go down. And as for buying, because we realized, of course, that whatever amount of favor you buy, even if you borrow against it, you can only get 60%, right? So we thought it would be unfair to make you pay full price and then only get 60% and then nothing. So if you do buy favor, you get a bonus esteem. Like, it's pretty small text, but maybe you can see it.
Mm.
50% value of your bought USDT favor at current Esteem price. So, for example, if Esteem is $20 at the moment and you buy $100 worth, then you get 2.5 Esteem extra. So actually, when you buy favor, you get 110% value. So you get your
Mm.
favor, and you get your which you can utilize for 60%. So you're at 60%, and then you get your esteem on top of that, bringing you to 110% value.
Okay.
So
So when in the white paper it says when you buy favor you get 150%. And when you sell it you have a 50%
yeah,
tax. So that
yeah,
150%, that 50%
hmm
bonus you get when you buy it, that's paid out to you in Steam tokens.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Those
Okay.
get printed for you or minted.
Okay, so you get the favor tokens which you can borrow against, and
Yeah.
then you get the Steam tokens. What would you do with the Steam tokens?
Oh, once again, you go to the growth. Like, if you don't want to smelt them down, which I
Yeah.
like, once again, I don't recommend, but then you go to the growth and you pick either your ETH favor or you pick your USDT favor, and you say, hey, I want to put it, uh, I want to take USDT favor, so I'm going to stake it here. I'm going to say, like, hey, okay, I can't put anything here, but I'm gonna, oh, here it says currently stake 230 ST. That's what the designer thought was a good amount. So, and then you can stake even more of your Steam if you want.
Okay.
And or you can withdraw it and put it in another grove, like put it in the ETH grove if you want ETH token instead of ETH favor instead of the USDT favor. And later there will be as many groves as that we have listed assets. So like we also want to partner eventually with bigger other protocols. For example, the AAVE token. I don't know, maybe that would be a good listing. We'll have to see. I mean, first we want to go for the real blue chips, and then if someone wants to partner with us and their token is big and has a decent liquidity, then yeah, why the hell not?
Yeah.
Should should look into that. And because DeFi is cool if it works together, right? And I honestly think that if a token gets listed on our protocol, because our protocol actually captures that asset, they will get buying pressure, and we will get an increase in TVL, and that increase in TVL will once again make everyone who is on Better Bank richer. So um, we like extra tokens, so let's go. They just need to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to my question about like how do you vet new tokens that you decide to put into like the stronghold, like because I know Aave, they have a very um tight vetting process for new tokens that you can lend and borrow on, and they have like voting and governance involved there with the community. um
Mhm.
so I'm guessing in the beginning, would that be up to the team's discretion, new
Yeah,
tokens coming in? And then eventually, if you
yeah.
guys go to a voting model down the road, would that be something that would be voted upon by
Yeah, so
ownership,
we
the
do plan to
owners?
go to a
Okay.
voting model, and then it would go to a voting model. And in the beginning, we as a team would simply decide on the validity of a new token.
Okay.
And of course, like something like PaxG or WBTC is probably pretty easy. Some people, I've heard multiple things about WBTC, but overall, it's considered to be a good token,
Yeah.
and it holds its value. So if a token has a track record of actually holding its value with ETH, that's not necessary because it's a native. But any stablecoin needs to hold its value for a long time, and then we can look at it and say, okay, this is actually good stable. So let's put that stable in. Whether right now we start with USDT, but there's nothing against putting USDC in as well, or maybe some other stablecoins that have a good track record. And like as decentralized as it gets would be better. That's why, for example, DAI would be better, although that is collateralized by USDC a lot.
Hmm.
But like the less centralized the token is, the more we're interested in it, of course, because otherwise, that's basically the DeFi thing, right? You don't want governments to be able to say anything about your about transactions.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it
But
protects
yeah,
it
we're
protects
gonna look
everybody.
very
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna look very very well at tokens, and I definitely want to have a euro stable as well. And I
Your
mean,
your
if China
C.
survives,
Yeah.
yeah, and if China survives the current trade war, then why not a yuan stable?
Yep.
I've never seen any, but if they've got one, then if it's a proper stable, and someone for whatever reason wants to invest in it, I'm fine with that. But we need to be careful. I mean, it's the dollar stables that have good track record, so we
Yeah.
start looking there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those who don't know what we're looking at here, like the groves, um,
Mhm.
you stake your esteem, which is your share token, your ownership in Better Bank. You
Yeah,
buy esteem here during the pre-sale, and you get it at a discount, and you get extra. You take that,
yeah,
you can either immediately smelt or burn the esteem, which I guess is good for the tokenomics, makes it deflate a little bit. But, that might
yeah,
not be the ideal thing to do unless you're strapped for liquidity at the moment. But what you could do
yeah,
is you stake it here, you stake your esteem in the grove, and you
yeah,
earn the favor token of your
yeah,
choice. Can you
yeah.
explain what the favor tokens are and what peg means. How does this all work here?
Yeah. So as I said before, and I think this is actually easier to explain with USDT, but let's try it with ETH. Um, so you see here ETH supply being, as the designer decided,
I would
3,323
like that
ETH.
very much. I would like that very much
Yeah.
again.
So that would be the favor
Yeah.
than the current supply of ETH favor.
Yeah.
Um, So what we decided when I decided, or maybe I should say what I decided, but my team was in agreement. So what we decided is that the price of the ETH favor versus the base token, so in this case, ETH favor price in ETH, determines the daily printing. So here you see the supply being 3323, and
Mm.
so here you see that the current favor price is 1.83 ETH. That means that the daily ETH favor issuance is 1.83% of the supply, which would result in 6.08 ETH favor that day. And then here you see, oh, you've got the percentage of the pool for you is 0.4%. So you get you personally get 0.4% of that 6.08.
Okay.
And then you can claim that anytime you want, by the way. You can wait a week or whatever you want. we don't care. You can claim whenever you want.
So the ETH favor price in this example,
Uh-huh.
um, I guess let's just use USDTF. Okay, so
Sure. This is the same
just
thing,
so that
right?
way we
This is the
don't
same
have
idea.
two moving assets.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so how does the price of favor fluctuate? And what happens when the price of USDT favor fluctuates? How does that affect us?
Well, it affects you mostly in the growth
Okay.
because it affects how much gets printed.
Mm.
So if the price of USDT favor, for example, is something like 3 USDT, every favor is 3 USDT, then we print 3% of the total supply every day. And that probably will quite quickly result in getting us to maximum borrow potential. And that will result in people selling the favor because, you know, they just have too much of it.
Yeah.
And that will make the price go down again. So then the printing will go a little slower, probably more to the tune of whatever is put in the stronghold side at that moment. But the thing is here, like these higher numbers, they are designed for when the protocol grows rapidly. Because if the protocol grows rapidly and there is a whole lot of extra liquidity in the stronghold side, then we want the wildlands to be able to follow. And the way that they follow is by increasing the price of their favor. So they should go then to the marketplace, buy their favor, get their extra esteem as a bonus, but they mostly buy their favor to make the price go up so that in the growth, more favor gets printed so that they can capture more.
Hmm.
And that is yeah, either an individual effort or a community effort. I mean, as an individual, you're not really at a loss, and at the same time you're helping the community, so it's a win-win for everyone.
So can you explain again what would be the benefit of buying favor? Is it because you get the bonus esteem as well on top of it? Is that the main incentive to buy favor? Or Is it
No, that's not the
because,
main incentive. That's just a little thing to make it even, basically.
or is it
So
because the price of favor could be at a discount? Say if it's at like down. I know you
yeah,
said they have
yeah,
a
that's also right.
that has a dynamic
That,
minting rate tied to the peg, so 0.2% to 3% daily. So let's say favors 20
yeah,
cents on the dollar for compared to
yeah. Then
USDT. You
you
could
get
buy a
zero point
bunch
two
really
percent.
cheap, assuming
Yeah,
that supply and demand will bring it back up to
yeah,
peg at, 1 for 1 with USDT. So let's say you buy it 20 cents on
yeah,
the dollar because it's come
yeah,
down from minting and selling and stuff, and people
yeah.
start buying it up, and they're anticipating it's gonna go back to peg at $1 or above. So they would buy it at a discount, and then when
I,
it comes back up to
whether
peg.
it goes to a dollar or above, it doesn't really matter. What the situation that this happens in, and I should preface this with something. We intentionally chose the older model of liquidity pools. For those people who are knowledgeable about this, we choose the V2 liquidity pools because those are actually tokens. The V3 pools work very differently, and there a range of liquidity can be determined. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't want that. We just want it to be straight up tokens where the price goes up and down based on the amount available. So we chose V2 tokens with a reason.
Yeah.
And if you go to the stronghold and
V2
uh,
tokens, for those who don't know, that means those are full range liquidity pools where you provide
yeah,
liquidity across the full spectrum of the price ranges, whereas V3 is concentrated liquidity pools, which, like you said, you can provide liquidity across a range of tick spacings of price, and then you get a higher proportion of the liquidity fees. But that overcomplicates things so much.
let's not get
It
into
makes
that
it
because we're not using
that
that.
is that is so complicated already as it is. Integrating it into a system like this, I can't even imagine. So it makes sense. You
Yeah,
chose full
we
range V2 pools for this system.
yeah, we have been thinking about it and then just set the range very high, but then we would also have to use faults first, and it just would get very complicated because actually the V3 pools themselves, they use NFTs in them, which no, never mind. We
Yeah.
use V2 pools, much better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so what you see here once again, where the received interest against MBP utilization, right?
Yeah.
What you in this actual example, what the designer chose, it's pretty low. Like you see this little stripe here, barely anything is borrowed. So actually, the interest rate at this moment in time received in the stronghold is under 10%. Now, I don't think this is ever going to happen because it's insanely low. But
That's a
imagine it happens.
fantastic, but honestly, that's a fantastic interest rate. That blows AAVE out of the water on ETH. You know what I mean? So that would be great.
Yeah, so imagine this would happen, and say that this happened after a period of people being disinterested, people selling a lot, and the favor token being really low. So the favor token is 20 cents to the dollar, and therefore barely anyone can borrow, because if the favor token is 20 cents to the dollar, then the LP token, which you use here as collateral, um, is also pretty is worth less. I mean, it's not worthless, but it's worth
Yeah,
less.
the dollar
Um,
value of that LP goes down according to the constant product formula of liquidity pools, which
yes,
you guys can look that up if you want. It's a non-linear function, or no, it's actually a linear
it's
function.
linear. It's linear.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
linear function
especially in V2 pools.
in
Yeah.
V2 pools. Yeah.
Uh, so if it would be 20 cents to the dollars, that would mean that there would be 5 times as much favor in the pool as there would be a USDT. Um, so that is the way that works. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very simple. It's very linear. Very straightforward.
Yeah.
But that would mean that the value of that combination, and it works a little differently, but I'm gonna make it simple, would be basically half of those two combined. So there would be $1.20. Half that would be 60 cents. So while then LP of those two tokens combined is only 60 cents, and you're borrowing against that. So there's not a lot of borrowing power because these deposits aren't worth that much. And that is when it becomes interesting to go to the marketplace and go buy your USDT favor. Because, first of all, you get it very cheap. But we assume that people who are going to buy favor here are people who are also in the grows and who already have a lot of esteem planted in the grows. So they want their token price to go up so they get more of it. Because if the token price goes up, then the printing goes up. So when on the stronghold side, there's barely anything, there's barely any interest. That means that on the wildland side, there's barely anything borrowed. So it's in the community's interest to go and boost that token so that you can borrow more again. And because you get your bonus esteem, because you get your bonus esteem, you're not even worse off. You're actually just not you're not just doing the community a favor, but also yourself. So I'd say it's a pretty decent investment to in such a situation go and buy favor to go and boost the protocol again. And that's when it happens. That's actually when it goes up.
Yeah.
And then once you can barely borrow anything anymore, then you go and sell it, and then the token goes down again. And if the token goes down, that also means that these liquidity pools become worth less again, and that means that it will push some people into liquidations.
Yeah.
Which doesn't matter because they got it free anyway.
Right.
At least in the normal situation. If you bought it and then get liquidated, you might have a little loss, but since we got you your esteem, you can get that back by have it printed. So,
and for the record, I just wanted to clear up something. I meant to say the V2 pools are non-linear because it's a square root function, but it's not as non-linear as the V3 pools. Those are even more crazy. But
okay.
But yeah, so it is a non-linear function, but I see what you're.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I see what
you're right because it's 1 to 5 and 1/5 becomes 1/6 and then becomes and that actually is a non-linear. Yeah, that's exponential.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're right.
I just wanted just so I don't accidentally we were
right.
talking a mile a minute. I just wanted to make sure I didn't say something incorrect there. But
you're correct.
Yeah, so if the favor price goes down, you can buy more of it, you get esteem. If you then take your favor tokens, pair it with USDT or ETH, and then you provide it here as collateral and borrow against it. And let's say you get liquidated and you lose some of that favor you bought. And you've taken a loss. You said, the esteem you've staked in the groves, that's continually minting new favor for you. So over time,
yeah, so you're not taking a loss.
You can make that back up. Okay.
But you're not even taking a loss because if you have your esteem and you get, for example, $200 printed, and then you post that and you get your 120 out because you borrow that, as we earlier used as an example, and then that gets liquidated, then what loss have you gotten? Because you got that $200 printed anyway.
So you're saying potentially the better way to do it would be to buy Esteem tokens, mint your favor through the groves, and then use those favor tokens in the wildlands to then borrow ETH or USDT and keep that ETH or USDT as your profit.
Yes.
Okay. I think
that is the way.
I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah. That is the way, and that is actually the primary way. So the only moment you would buy favor is if you want the token to go up, or if you think it's a really good deal because the price is low.
Right, and I remember people doing arbitrage plays on seniorage protocols in the past when there was a strong protocol that people had faith was going to get was going to repeg, right? So they would buy it
Uh-huh.
20 like I was saying 20 cents on the dollar and then make a 5x on that when it gets back to a dollar, let's say.
Yeah, or even more because there were bonding systems that would give you even more, but
Right. So I remember that
but
was a way
that
people made a lot of money back in protocols, but this is a new take on that, mixing it with the AAVE code with borrowing and lending, tying that
yeah.
together, and then also preventing direct selling of the share token, the esteem token here, so people can't
Hmm.
directly just dump the share token, which is like you said earlier, that's the death knell for a seniorage protocol. If people just
Yes.
crash the share token, it and then it everything kind of falls apart. But the seniorage protocols that I've seen that have survived a long time, they have a method to kind of prevent direct selling of the share token or have a managed
Hmm.
aspect to it. I won't name any names because I don't know if they still function this way if things have changed, but you're kind of doing something similar here where you're preventing direct selling of the share token. You're
Yes.
you're forcing a constant increase in the price on it, and
Yeah.
then you're deflating it through the smelting mechanism, but you're also inflating it through minting it as needed. Um,
Yeah.
what
And
what
also,
what?
if you're smelting it, by the way,
Uh,
you're also increasing supply faster than it would normally increase. So you're also giving the community larger prints because if the supply is larger, then the print is also larger because that's a percentage of the supply. That's just as an aside.
say that
Uh,
again.
well, if the amount that gets printed in the groves
Yeah.
here is a percentage of supply. So if the supply increases, then obviously this number increases as well.
Mm, yeah.
Not by much, but a little at least. So if a whole lot of people are going to smelt that, that means that the supply of whatever they chose, whether they chose this or this, then that supply is going to increase. So that pool is going to print more.
Interesting. So if they smelt a steam,
Hmm.
they get more favor
Favor.
tokens,
Yeah.
and that actually mints new favor tokens into existence,
Yes.
which
Yes.
increases the favor token supply, which increases the amount of favor tokens
Output.
that are emitted to the stakers of esteem in the grove.
Yes. To those people who stay, who keep their esteem basically.
Okay, so the
So
people who decide not to smelt it, those people
yeah.
who like say, "Hey, I need to smelt this," and just like bail because I need to
Yeah.
go pay for a car repair or something, and I didn't plan my life accordingly.
For example. Yeah.
And they so but the people who bought a Steam and staked it here for the long term with the plan to just keep getting the emissions over a long period of time, when those
Hmm.
other people smelt their esteem, it will temporarily boost the emissions here for the people who have staked their esteem in the grove.
Yeah, or permanently even, but just not by a large amount. It would be if a whole lot of people do this at the same time, then it would
I
be
see.
like significant. But it would boost it a little bit. So it's just a principal aspect more than I think than a practical one. But it does work that way. That if a whole lot of people exit, then the people who stay are going to be in profit.
I see. So the favor tokens then, what controls their supply? Can it inflate out of control, or are there some mechanisms in place to lock up or burn the supply of favor tokens?
No, there's no burning of that supply. Actually, the favor tokens keep inflating, and the only thing that goes up and down is the amount by which they do inflate. Basically, like dollar.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
dollar keeps inflating, and it either inflates fast or it inflates slow, but it does inflate. Um, so the favor tokens do the same thing, and we currently have set it to a minimum of 0.2% a day. We think that in the entirety of the protocol, that is actually a good number. I have had a discussion with my main developer, Luca, or LB, as most people know him,
Yeah, yeah.
um, where I said like, hey, maybe we should minimize it to 1/10 of that, right? To 0.02 percent a day, for if people really are uninterested in that favor token or whatever, or if something weird happens that we don't foresee. Well, the thing is, if that really happens, then we can always still adjust it, because that is a thing that we can adjust in the code, like the minimum and the maximum
Okay.
of this printing. We can't mint those tokens. We're going to renounce that, but we can adjust the speed of the minting. And so if that needs to happen, we can either do that when we're still a team, or if we're fully decentralized, it can be voted upon.
So you guys can adjust the minimum and maximum um
Minting.
minting
Yeah,
rates of the
yeah,
favor tokens, and then
yes,
those minting rates are dynamically determined between those minimum and max constraints you put
and
on it.
maximum.
So,
Exactly.
how did you guys settle on 0.2% to all the way up to 3% daily? And what stops favor from spiraling too far from its pegged token?
Well, we settled on that because if you look at 0.2%, that comes down to about plus 100% per year. So 0.2% daily means plus 100% per year.
Okay.
Um, and we settled on that because if you have a plus 100% per year, and you put that, you assume that all of these people put that in the here in the wildlands actually, as collateral, then you can then that comes down uh, to about 60% of the supply captured a year. So actually, what that means is that this printing will then keep up with some of the lower interest rates. So most likely, even if the favor supply is pretty low, and nobody wants to buy favor for whatever reason, then still the protocol can keep up something like a 40 to 50% interest rate, simply based on the minimum printing.
Mm,
That was the thought behind that.
okay.
Of course, it's not super exact. I could probably make this super exact by going all math on it, but that's like, because it's all fluctuating anyway. That's not
So
super
you picked
useful. And
0.2% as the minimum because you
yeah,
want to make sure the stronghold, even in those
still
situations, can still yield 40 to 50% APY.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So that was the idea behind that minimum, and the idea behind the plus side is that 3% a day is an insane amount per year. I'd
Yeah,
have to get my calculator, but it's more than 1,000% or
it
something.
is. Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
so if the protocol grows really extremely rapidly, then I still think that 3% a day will make sure that it will keep, or it might not keep up uh, immediately, but it will overtake the amount capturable quite quickly. But if you don't set a limit, then people who are bad actors can pump the price to something insane and make sure that they are in a pool which is very small. And then, because they are the biggest esteem holders in that pool, they get that insane printing
Mm,
for a couple of days before people get wise on it or something like that. And
yeah.
we just don't want that to happen. So we want to have a maximum. And I think that 3% is fair enough. It's already like super, super high. So we just don't want bad actors to be able to capture something like that. And that is also, by the way, why we have um, if the token a favor token becomes worth more than 3.5 times its pair token. So USDT favor token would be $3.50, and an ETH favor token would be 3.5 ETH. If it's more than that, then the token can still go up in price. I mean, that we're not stopping that. That is simply the way that the LP works. But when it's posted as collateral, it's not counted beyond that number. So
Yeah.
and that is a way also to defend against flash loan attacks, aside from using a time weighted average
Oh,
price
okay.
over a couple of seconds.
That was
So
one of
it's
my
these are
questions. I was gonna ask,
yeah.
why was 3.5x the magic number to cap the collateral value of favor at to its peg to prevent exploits? Why? So I guess
Yeah,
why 3.5x specifically in your mind?
I just thought that 7 was a nice number. And if it's 3.5x times 2, it's 7. It's not exactly right, because, if you've got, for example, a super high price, then that would mean that, I don't know, there would be 9 USDT in the amount of liquidity, and only one favor, because the favor is then worth so much. So then it would be the favor run at 3.5, and the USDT run at 9, and so you'd get to uh, 12 and a half, actually. But that was actually not how I saw it when I was writing it up at first, and so I got wise to that later. Um, but then I just kept it, simply because it doesn't really need to be higher than 3.5. We wanted to be able to go higher than 3, because that is the maximum where we stop the printing increase. But if it goes even higher than that, and it goes beyond 3.5, we actually want it to go down again. I mean, that's simply not the way that token is supposed to be used.
Yeah.
It's not meant to go that high.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, Now I guess back to the stronghold. So the esteem rewards, I think it's 0 to 100 daily per asset, somewhere in there.
Mm.
Um,
Wait, come again?
so
Where are we? The stronghold?
in the stronghold, so those esteem rewards that you get,
Yeah.
um, I think in the white paper it says they might be tweaked or scrapped in the future. What
Yeah.
data would trigger a change like that, and how would you communicate that to the users to avoid any kind of panic?
Well, first of all, as it stands, most likely the pending esteem rewards are pretty low. So the primary reason to be in the stronghold is the interest rate, and
Right.
it's not the esteem rewards. The esteem rewards are a little extra. The main reason we put in the esteem rewards as an extra is to kind of incentivize people to go and look at the wildlands a little bit. Maybe just, if you get it for free, you would want to take a look, claim it, send it to a different wallet, and go and have a look at the wildlands and see if it's also for you. You get some free play money, basically. It's real, like it's real Steam, but you get it for free. So, go and try out if the wildlands is also something for you. If you
Hmm.
don't want it, then go ahead and smelt it. That's fine. But so it's just a little bit of an extra that we give, so that people are incentivized to go and look at the wildlands and go and try it. Um, Eventually, we might have just enough people who know about the entire system, and it's then it becomes an unnecessary feature. It doesn't really have that much of an added value, because it's about the interest rates anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and, and about, by the way, trying it out for free, we are going to run a test net uh, next to the main net, so anyone can use this protocol for free and try it out. we're going to give you fake USDT, and we're going to give you some fake ETH. That's going to be a bit harder because of the faucets. And then you can just try it out on the testnet. You don't have to spend any real money. You can just go and try it out and see if it works for you. So that is an extra thing that we want to do.
Very cool. I like that. Um, so high interest rates in the stronghold could potentially attract bad actors to try to game the system. So how do you
Mhm.
plan to detect and prevent manipulative borrowing or dumping?
I should. I would like to ask, like, how can someone? Because if you get a high interest rate for posting your USDT or ETH, like, why is that a problem?
I guess I'm always trying to figure out how whales could come in here and try to manipulate this to
Yeah, that's a good
exploit. You
question.
know,
That's a good question, but
could somebody come in here with way more money than everybody else, especially in the early stages, and
mhm.
potentially game this system that you can think of?
If well, there's a couple of possibilities that they could use. If someone has way more money than anyone else and they put it in the stronghold, then the interest rate tanks. I
Okay.
mean, interest rate just goes to under 10 or something because there's just way too much to borrow, and therefore you don't have to pay a lot for it. So that means that the wildland side is going to go into overdrive. That
Mm,
is basically the only thing that happens if people put a whole lot of money um, into the stronghold. Now, if they would put it in the wildlands, there's two options. They either put it in ETH favor or USDT favor, so they put it in a favor token, or they mint a steam out of it. If they do mint a steam and say, the protocol is worth 1 million at a time, and someone who's a super whale and has nothing better to do comes in and buys 10 million worth of steam. Um, what that would do is, aside from that person having a huge amount of esteem at that moment in time and being able to, basically claim most of what happens in the groves,
yeah.
but what that would also do is that of that 10 million, 8 million gets immediately captured by the protocol and posted on the stronghold side.
Mm,
So for everyone who's already having favor, or they get their favor printed, um, there's a whole lot more to capture. And obviously, that same whale is going to capture most of that because they have the big share there.
yeah.
But that's not going to stay like that forever, because if suddenly the protocol jumps from 1 million to 11 million in that way, and there is so much more to capture, then that means that it would be very interesting for everyone to go and buy more Steam. And it would also be interesting for everyone to go and buy more favor to make the favor go up really well. I don't even think it's a bad play for the whale. I think the whale's going to do fine with it. And I'm not really against that. I mean, if you have a lot of money and you want to play with it, it's fine. You're not going to destroy the system with it. It might get a hit, and the interest rate might tank, and you might have a lot of um, the shares for a while, but it will balance itself out after a while, and it will actually not really hurt anyone. So, I mean, come if you're a whale, come and try it out, see what happens. And I
Yeah.
think you're going to be in profit, but I think the entire community is going to be in profit. I think the whales will actually then serve the community by their actions,
So
and that's
yeah.
that's the way I want it.
So what would happen if somebody, deposited a whole bunch in the, I don't know, let's say they deposit a whole bunch in the wildlands in
Uh-huh,
these LPs, and then they take the loan, they borrow a loan against it, they send it
uh-huh,
to a different wallet, and then they put
uh-huh.
that in the stronghold to earn interest on that borrowed
Uh huh.
capital.
Yeah,
It
that's
explain.
a good play.
I know you probably thought about this a lot. Explain what could
No,
is this good or bad? Like, is there
it's
some way to
good. It's
loop
good for
this
everyone.
system? Like,
Yeah, it is a way to loop the system because as soon as you put it in the stronghold on a wallet that only uses the stronghold, it's basically safe. So you've taken it out of the unsafe wildlands basically and send it to a safe protocol and then put it in there. And that means that there is more to capture again for the wildlands. So it does loop, but not just for you, it loops for everyone. So because it can be captured again by everyone who is in the wildlands. So it's simply a good play, and it's something that I would recommend to people to do. Go and take whatever you take out of the wildlands, send it to another wallet, and put it on the stronghold. It's a good play to do. Now, another thing that could happen because you're talking about attacks is that if someone, for example, would buy a whole lot of Steam, then at whatever loss they can have, or maybe they even wait in long enough that they don't have a loss, and then they smelt it, um, and that means that they will have a whole lot of favor all at once, and then they can tank, for example, that favor, and that could bring a whole lot of people into liquidations.
mm,
That is usually the kind of attack that is very damaging to a protocol. But if it works with, if this would happen with us, now first of all, they bought a lot of Esteem. That's already 80% of whatever they spent there is in the stronghold by means of the treasury. Then they go and smelt it. A whole lot of extra favor will be created. So that means that the supply of that particular type of favor goes up by a whole lot. That means that everybody who has not smelted their Steam, who still has it, will get printed more. But then that person says, okay, I'm going to dump this token now. The only way that they can do it is simply by eating the tax.
mm,
Uh, and that is a 50% tax. And that 50%, so they will be at a huge loss. And that 50% actually gets captured once again by the treasury, and 80% of that 50%, so let's say 40% of their sell value, um, once again gets posted in the protocol on the stronghold site. So once again, more assets available to borrow on the wildland side. So if someone would do that, then yes, everybody in the wildlands would probably get liquidated, which they don't care about because these tokens were free anyway. But after that moment, everyone who still has a Steam um, will be hugely in profit because a whole lot of extra assets have been added to the stronghold that are now available to capture on the wildland side. And this attacker who already is in loss um, will no longer be able to capture it because they just smelted and dumped. So they can't capture it anymore. They'd have to get in again.
mm.
So it's not a useful attack at all. But that's the only real attack that could happen there. And you could try something like that with a flash loan attack. It also doesn't work. Not aside. And aside from that, we also have like the standard flash loan attack defense, which is to have a time weighted average price over a little period just before the current moment. So the oracle actually reads over usually a couple of seconds, so
Okay.
that if the price gets hugely increased within the flash loan transaction, then the oracle doesn't count it as that. So you also can't use it.
Interesting. And who is your friend here who has joined us on the interview?
Yeah. this is this is my cat, one of my two cats.
Awesome, man. I love it.
This is Aria, and she's already with me for. She's actually I was the first person that she met because I was there when she was born, and since then she's gotten 20 kittens, um,
Wow.
and and she's still very healthy, and she's now neutered and about almost 9.
Wow. Well, hi, Ariel. Nice
Yeah.
to meet you. Welcome to the YaBonks show.
Yeah, I'm sure she's very happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, this is
Her,
all super fascinating, man. And especially now that we have special guest appearances by Ariel, and the
area,
like.
area, and her daughter is here as well. She was the one who was sneezing.
Oh. Well, I know you guys, and by you guys I mean the team. So I guess I have
Hmm.
a couple questions about that. So the
Yeah,
founding
go ahead.
team controls the protocol and treasury via a multi-sig. Can you share more
Hmm.
about who's on the team and how you will ensure accountability to Esteem holders?
Yeah, sure. So the who is on the team? That is a good start. We have a pretty big team at the moment. We are already past 15 people, but obviously not all of those are going to be on the multi-sig. We are 4 founders, um, and those are going to be the people on the multi. And maybe some others for safety, but that's the primary people, and we are doxed. So um, we simply are public people that our names are known, and we live in countries where taking money is not really um, well, nobody really likes it. I mean, I am in Europe. Corey is in Europe. That's our main marketer. Uh, um, Nick NB is in the US. They also don't like it if you steal money. And LB is in Dubai, and they're also pretty strict about that. So, and he's an Australian. So, like, none of us would get away with that, even if we would want to. We don't want to. I mean, I never want to steal money. I hate that stuff. So what I actually want is for people to be able to generate wealth for themselves, because this trick that Better Bank is using has been used for a long, long time in our world, but not by the general populace. This is being used by uh, these high-level investors. It's being used by those people who can borrow from the central banks. It's being used by the people who are very close to the source of money. And now we're turning that around to give it to just about anyone who wants to.
Okay. And with management of the treasury funds, so much
Uh-huh.
is captured through the protocol and added to the treasury. And then you said 80% of the treasury, or at least 80% of what goes into the treasury through the protocol fees, gets put into the stronghold, which I'm assuming also earns stronghold rewards,
Interest.
interest, and
Yeah.
esteem.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does the treasury's profits, how are those used, and in what ways are they used to benefit the overall ecosystem and participants in the project?
Yeah, that's a very good question. First of all, let me correct something here.
Sure.
Um, 80% of the what the protocol captures gets put into the stronghold in the treasury. So the treasury receives 80% of what gets captured. The other 20% we see as what we are going to use for the team, what we are going to use for other short-term investments, and it's basically like that's our profit margin after we take out all the costs of whatever we do. If we go to certain events or if we sponsor them or whatever, and we have probably are going to have travel costs and whatever and whatnot.
Yeah, so
But
20%
also, we
20%
we
of
we
us
also would like to we also would like to benefit a lot out of this,
for
and
sure.
I think 20% is a fair deal. So
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
is primary where we start, and then we're from that 20% we're going to pay our team, and we're going to make sure our expenses are covered and everything, and then we just have a lot of money left, which we are very happy with. But what we also want to do with that, of course, is to make to get into new stuff. I mean, I've got, I think, at least 5 designs for protocols still shelved that I think are good protocols. Maybe I want to update them a little bit on the tokenomics side, but they're good protocols in and of themselves. And all that I usually didn't have was a huge amount of liquidity and the reach for people to actually go and use them. So um, launching new protocols is definitely something that we're looking into. And both I myself, as well as Nick, Nick has also some protocols that he still has designed and wasn't able to launch yet. But aside from that, we also have friends within the space who are very creative people who have all kinds of cool ideas of all kinds of new protocols that have never been launched before, have never been seen before, that are not a fork, and that I would love for all of those projects to see the light of day. I mean, how cool would that be that DeFi actually comes back to that beautiful creative thing that I think it kind of was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. Like we definitely want to go and help new things. The second thing, of course, is to provide the liquidity for a new listed asset. We take some out of the treasury, we sell it for the new asset, and then we put that in the treasury in the stronghold, and that is the start of it. And then we mint some new favor tokens, renounce that minting again because we do that with all of them, and make sure that you know that works as well. But beyond that, I mean, eventually we're going to get to a point where this treasury is huge, right? And we might also get to a point where the interest rate might be a little lower. And when the interest rate is a little lower, we would actually be doing the community or anyone in the stronghold a favor by taking out some of that money because then the interest rates rise. We could also just leave it there and have the wildlands capture it. I mean, that's also good, fair enough. Nothing wrong with that. But we mean to sometimes take when it's possible to sometimes take something out of that to use for something good. I mean, I feel that current society is pretty destructive, and I would really like to see, you know, people with good ideas who want to help each other and who have great ideas but can't really get the liquidity because they'd have to get a loan from the bank and they can't get it, and because the banks, want to get that back in swift order, or they don't trust the new idea or whatever. I would like to go and look at such things as what benefit does it do for the earth, and what benefit does it do for people. And if it is a something that benefits, for example, nature in a good way, or humanity in a good way, and eventually in the beginning that's going to be the team who decides over that, but eventually that's just going to be the populace. And as soon as we get to that, like I don't know when, but if we do get to decentralization, proper decentralization, going to be the populace. And if it is in any way a sort of a viable idea that might yield its money back, or at least is a proper investment, even though it might not be very fast or whatever, then I would like to help that. For example, I myself, I really would love to create beautiful communities as a sort of like a philosophical academy where I just want to have people there and reinvent ownership in a different way, and just try and experiment with the sort of societies we can have if money is available for beautiful ideas. That's kind of where I would love to go. Um, and yeah, that is also part of the idea that I just want actually just the populace or individual people to profit from this wealth generation instead of those people who already are at the very top of this system. So um, it kind of runs into each other, or it's sort of the same idea.
So if the treasury grows and grows and grows very
Mhm.
large from the
To millions to billions, yeah.
from the
I give it huge.
operation of the protocol over time, plus the interest
Yeah.
that the those funds in the treasury earn in the stronghold, then
Mhm.
you'll have a multifaceted approach of what to do with that, because you, as you said, that might dilute some of the interest that retail might be earning in the stronghold. So you might take some of those uh, treasury assets in the stronghold, add them to new liquidity for stronghold assets like
Mhm.
Wrap Bitcoin or PaxG, things like that,
Yeah.
USDC, EuroC,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
You might invest in real world projects or real world assets
Yeah.
with an
Eventually.
aim of some kind of benefit to humanity, which in the
Or the Earth.
future
Yeah.
might be something that's voted upon by protocol owners in a decentralized fashion. And then also you might use it to launch integrated ecosystems uh, within or as an extension of Better Bank. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's pretty much correct. And so definitely it has to do with creating new protocols and having them work. And it has to do with stuff like, for example, you have this beautiful animal shelter. You're already running fine as far as I know, but there are other peoples with great ideas like that, and they might need a start of liquidity, and they say like, hey, I can make this financially viable, but only not right now, only in 15 years or so. Then and it's going to be something like an animal shelter that allows for people to come and learn how to take care of animals or whatever, and
Yeah.
then they pay for that course, and you get all kinds of dog trainers there or whatever. I'm just off the top of my mind, I'm thinking of something,
Yeah.
and you say like, I can make this financially viable, but I would have to start with building the whole thing, and that's going to take me a lot of it's going to cost a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. Try. Oh, I know.
uh,
It does. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so if you have an idea like that, and that is, I think, an idea that actually makes people kinder, because it will teach them how to deal with animals, and it will make nature more beautiful because you will have more of it, and it will make the land more beautiful. And it's good for the earth. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I would definitely want to support something like that. And at the same time, who knows? We might get some sort of an app where you can simply transfer money that is already in the stronghold to each other. If we can build something like that, we can simply say, hey, if you're both in the stronghold, you can direct pay from one to the other. You don't even have to go via fiat first. So it can become something really big, depending on how things go, of course. Like I don't want to jump ahead of that, but um, if I may dream, then I would gladly do so, because there's a lot to improve on what's currently happening. A whole lot of people being debanked a lot, which I
Yeah.
also think is terrible.
For sure.
Um, so yeah, DeFi is the way, and let's show a good example.
I love that. Absolutely. And yeah, man, it takes a lot to start something like that. And how do you finance it and fund it going forward? And
Yeah,
we need to figure out new systems and processes to integrate stuff like that in whatever we build, which is kind of what I've done with my YouTube channel and community, with my animal
yeah.
rescue and shelter and sanctuary.
And,
So that's
and,
very
and
cool.
for example, what I would also really like to do, and that might be seen as something less high flying, But we have PAXG, right? A
Yeah.
gold stablecoin, and the way that that works is that someone has a whole lot of gold somewhere,
Yeah.
and you can trade that for gold. I think you need to buy 5 kilos at once, but you can. Um, but none of that has happened for silver or any other metals. I
Hmm.
mean, what if we as Better Bank do that? We get a vault somewhere, we protect it well, and then we create stablecoins uh, based on that material. Silver stablecoins would be cool. Uh, Stuff like that, you know. Just
I I've got
I don't want to stop.
I've got silver right here, man.
I,
You know.
I don't see you, man. I see my screen.
Yeah, I'm holding
Yeah,
up
silver's beautiful.
I'm holding up a silver coin, and
Yeah,
you know, it that's an interesting idea. I think this is another way, like this was the first way people tried to debank or decentralize money. You
yeah,
know, and then these systems got built on top of it where, you know, central banks basically gained control of everything,
yeah.
and then we no longer had sound money. But now, you know, we're in the
Yeah.
DeFi revolution. We're trying to bring it back.
Well, I'm not sure if this is going to be sound money. I mean, our favorite tokens will inflate the
Oh,
hell
I'm
out of
talking
everything as well.
Bitcoin. I'm talking like Bitcoin and
Yeah,
you know,
true.
why we
Bitcoin is
all came
definitely
to
sound money.
crypto in the first place. You know,
Yeah,
financial
you're right.
sovereignty and self custody of our funds, so we can participate in whatever different financial systems uh, we
Yeah,
come up with, whether that's playing around
but
with borrowing and lending on AAVE or in Better Bank or trying out different
yeah,
things. And it's just
but it's
I
also
want to have
about
that
freedom,
freedom, right?
right?
I want to have that freedom. I don't want some government saying, "Hey, you can't do that." If I want to play around and
Exactly.
test this out, and if I end up making
And
50 to 70% APY on a stable coin, and some banker or government gets mad at me for it, like, too bad. This is DeFi.
yeah,
Yeah,
go away.
yeah,
Yeah, that's also that's another thing, right? There's so much positive sides to DeFi that make this so much more viable. Um, First of all, like there's this freedom, right? And I think who said that again? This crazy guy, McAfee. He said, well, if you have a wallet, you just remember 12 words, and you can take it wherever in your brain. You can
yeah.
just log into a computer anywhere and you have it with you. So that is the freedom I think that crypto brings and that DeFi brings, and to expand upon that, I think is a good thing. Because freedom of transaction actually brings peace. I truly believe that. I believe that if you cannot transact with people, then the only other way that you have to interact with them when it comes to materials is to take it, which means war.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to transact with people. And I think that what's happening right now with the world, with all of these trade wars, no, well, maybe the trade wars are kind of a you know, putting a system at ease. It might work, I don't know. But mostly, I mean, the sanctions that are going on and that whole parts of the world are being cut off, I think that's terrible. I think we shouldn't have that.
So another thing that banks traditionally don't give us is privacy. How
Yeah,
do you tackle this with Better Bank?
all I know and all I can see is a wallet address.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see more than that.
Yeah.
So Better Bank just has a whole lot of wallet addresses interacted with it. I don't know who those people are. I don't know what they're doing. I don't want to know what they're doing. And this, of course, is something that is being used as an excuse to say, oh, but that is all criminality and whatever. That's not true. It just means privacy. And Better Bank has bank privacy because we have no idea who you are and we don't want to know.
So no KYC procedures
No
for
KYC,
Better
sir.
Bank,
Never
right?
ever. And that is
Yeah.
and that is something that we can mostly maintain by never being a legal entity. The Better Bank is not Better Bank is not a legal entity. It's code on chain. It's on a blockchain which is decentralized, so it's not in a single country. It's only online. Which law are you going to pass on it? The law of the land? Which land? There's no land.
Right.
So it would be universal law, which the entire Earth is in agreement about.
Well,
So
I before this gets super long, I've got one last question. Okay. Um,
go answer.
so the white paper mentions seeding new projects to grow Better Bank's ecosystem. Are there any partnerships or integrations in the works that you can tease for us?
Well, of course, we need a DEX. So we are talking with a pretty big DEX, and I think that these are moving forward well, these talks. So of course, we're going to partner with a DEX, and I'm very happy with the talks that we have. So we can probably get our tokens whitelisted, and it's not going to be that's going to be an easy part. But I mentioned that we've been talking with other projects. We recently were at what's called Web3 Global, I believe, in Amsterdam, and because it's not very far, could drive there. Um, so we went there, and I had a talk with two different teams who were issuing debit cards. So they actually went through the entire legal hassle of being allowed to issue debit cards and to
Mm.
be lodged into um, the banking system. One of these guys, by the way, had been dealing with that for 7 years before he got licensed. Like
Wow.
this guy was so done with it. But anyway, he got it licensed, and I think that has a lot to do with the new Trump administration, even though it's overseas,
Yeah.
because he got it licensed recently.
Mm.
But anyway, like both of these guys had debit cards now licensed that could pay in stores based on stables that you put in a wallet address um, on DeFi. So you can simply send it to your wallet address that you have with this licensed card, and then you can use your card wherever. You don't have to use a centralized exchange anymore. You don't have to use your bank account anymore. So as long as you're good with whoever issues that card, you're already golden. And it doesn't have to be a loan like with a normal bank. It's good stuff. And if we can get a partnership with one of these guys, and I'm actually going to talk with one of them tomorrow, um, like it would be great if they can be the current account and we can be the savings account, and we can then work together. So we can, be on each other's site. So like we can link to them and say, hey, get your payment card here
Mm.
to go and pay with whatever you made with Better Bank. And they can link like, hey, if you got your euro stables here or whatever, go put them in Better Bank because that's your savings account. Go. Like those kinds of partnerships are, I think, pretty close. Will not take very long. And aside from that, I think we just need to find our friends in DeFi. But it has to do a lot, I think, with actual using your stuff in stores, and we are very happy to take partnerships for stuff like that because we yeah we are not that, we are the savings account on DeFi, and we want to have easier reach. And another thing that we are going to do, and it might not be called a direct partnership, but we do want to invest heavily on in education. So we're going to do our best to make the general populace understand DeFi and understand why it is so important and understand how they can use it. Make it as simple as possible so that the Gen Xers who just want a good savings account and who are also not happy with whatever the world is where the world is going, but for whom crypto is a bit far, that they can have a simple entry where it gets explained in a good way without having to pay for some sort of course or whatever. So we want to help there. And if we can partner up with people who are good storytellers or who are good teachers, then we're definitely going to do that as well.
Awesome. I love that. I'm all about education. That's what my whole channel has been
Yeah,
about from
that's
the
why I chose
beginning.
you.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. And that's super cool that you're looking at partnerships with potentially a debit card system, a DeFi debit card, to go with what you guys offer as a bank, which is high interest savings accounts and credit,
Yeah.
borrowing.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That would really be a great piece of the puzzle here for our little DeFi ecosystem, where we're trying to decentralize banking. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's all I've got. I wanna throw it back to you to let the audience know what should they do next. What are their next steps? Give them some action plans, and where can they find you?
Okay, come to our Discord. You could come to our Telegram, but it's much better in the Discord. That's our focus. The Telegram just talks with our Discord. So come there, join our community, give us feedback on how everything is working and what you think of it, so that you can get whitelisted. Or if you don't like that, do some quests so that you can go and retweet some stuff of ours so that we can spread the word, and then you can get whitelisted. Um, or even if you don't want to do any of that, you can simply pay more than 2,500. In any investment that is more than 2,500, it bypasses the whitelist entirely. So that is for right now. And come to us, help us grow, spread the word, and then be in time for June, because that is the public pre-sale. Because this whitelist pre-sale is going to be sold out pretty quickly. It's only $100,000 that you can spend there, and it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't in crypto. So then you can wait for the public pre-sale, where hopefully we get to a total of 1 million. And then for launch in July, um, just use Better Bank. Put your assets in our savings account and or in the stronghold basically, and go and see your money grow, because that's what we're about. We want you to profit actually.
Very cool. And what is your website again?
Oh, sorry, betterbank.io. So that would be just better, as in things getting better, but also better someone betting. I don't know. Anyway, and then bank, all just in one word, betterbank .io. That is our
Betterbank.io.
website.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
you guys go check out betterbank.io, join the Discord and the Telegram server, and check out the pre-sale happening right now. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on my show. It was great to see you again. I know it's been a couple of years, and it's amazing to see you building something so cool like this.
Thank you, man. I'm very happy to be on your show. Actually, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for asking such knowledgeable questions and giving me all the time to explain. And you've been a great host. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Everybody, share this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or feedback, leave it in the comments. And yeah, that'll do it. Check out betterbank.io. I will see you all on the next one.